Hey everyone! This here is a former Danish military Unimog 416, and as you probably know, I've had this one for quite a while. This here is also former Danish military. This is an HMK 1-ton off-road trailer, and it's the one that we picked up a few weeks ago. And I figured since it's such nice weather today, we should play around with this set for a little bit and see how well they go together. And also we can have a closer look at this trailer, because even for such a simple thing, there's actually quite a bit to it. But first, let's just briefly talk about the old Unimog, because as some of you probably know, this thing has a bunch of issues, and I will fix it one day, I promise. But for now, it is still functional, so we may as well have some fun with it. And also, you may have noticed that it looks a little bit different. It's not just green, it's got some camouflage on it now. Now, this is not a real paint job. It might look all right from a distance, but it is just a quick rattle can spray paint. And this is just for me playing around with the idea of giving this its original camouflage back that it would have had back in the 70s and 80s. And this is pretty much the exact pattern, except that, well, these Unimogs, they had the camouflage brush painted on, so it's actually not supposed to be a smooth transition here. It would have had hard brush lines, but now I'm just being a nerd. But I am playing around with the idea of giving this its camouflage back when we get to fixing this up, so I figured I may as well try it out now to see how well I like it. And honestly, I really do like it. But let me know what you think down in the comments. Should I just keep it green, or should we give it back its old camouflage like this? But this video is mainly going to be about this trailer, because we really didn't get to look at it a whole lot in the last video where we went out to pick this up. Now, if you haven't seen that one and you would like to, I'm going to leave a link for that one in the description. But to be honest, I really haven't looked at this thing a whole lot since then either, so I'm still not even entirely sure what all the parts that are left inside of this are exactly. So I think the first thing we're going to do is hook this up and then drag it up a little bit closer to the workshop, because I think I'm going to want to unload the stuff that's in there so we don't have that bouncing around and just getting destroyed. So first, we want this opened up, like that, and we want the trailer aligned. I think we're pretty close, just have to come up a bit. So now we just need some air for the brakes. And I should just say that I'm actually not entirely sure if my air couplings here on the Unimog even work, because I've never used them, and this thing is almost 50 years old now. But even if they don't, it's not really a big deal. We're not going out on the road. We're just going to be slowly driving around here on my own property. None of these couplings are terribly good, but let's just open up, see what happens. It's definitely not holding air. Oh, there we go. I think I got it. We're pumping air now. Very cool. Should also just say that I'm not going to be hooking up the lights on this thing, even though they probably work on the trailer itself. It was inspected not too long ago. But the connector on my Unimog has some off-road damage, so it's bent pretty badly, and the connector's not going to fit in there. But again, we are just playing around on private property, so it doesn't really matter too much. So now we can go ahead and bring up this nose wheel, And this folds up like so. And lastly, we can go ahead and release this manual parking brake. Right, so I have been looking at this trailer a little bit and discovered a few things. Now, if you've seen the first video, you might recall that I said, unfortunately, I was missing the mounting bracket for this spare wheel. But it turns out that this trailer is just not very used at all. So the way they build these is that they make this whole bottom part as one unit, and then later on something is added on top, typically just a box like this one. But because they make the bottom part first, all of those little extra accessories, they are mounted down on the frame. But on most of the ones that I've seen, that spare wheel bracket was mounted down here into this little well in the front. But I had a look at this one and I noticed it does have some bolts in it right there. So something must be hooked onto it. And it turns out they just never moved the bracket. It's down here on the bottom side. So all I got to do is unbolt it from here and move it up to where it's supposed to be, and we can hold that spare wheel in place. But wait, there's more. So the way these trailers are set up, as a standard, they are meant for these NATO-style hitches, but the military has been using these specific trailers for several decades, so they've had them attached to many different vehicles over the years. And the NATO-style hitch is a very big hook, so it needs a really big eye on the end of this. But because they use these on many different trucks, sometimes they might want to put it on something slightly more normal with more like a regular civilian type of trailer attachment, and it's much more narrow on this one. And also because this is much more for road use, you would want a much tighter fit in there so it doesn't bounce around all over the place. But they have actually thought about that on these trailers. So once again, down here, see if I can film it. Over there in the far corner, it still has the original adapter for that front hook. It's the first time I even see these things mounted. Usually they are long gone. And that adapter would fit right around here, and it would extend beyond this original hook point, and you would have that little one in the front instead, so you could use this on civilian hitches instead. So yeah, before we start driving around with this, I do want to empty it out, and also I want that spare wheel secured in place. But before I go ahead and move that bracket up here, I'm gonna have to get to the inside to bolt it back in place, so I think the easiest thing is just gonna be to take off this soft cover. That way I can also show you why it has these boxes out here on the side. Whoops. So the reason for these boxes out here is because you're going to need a place to store all of this stuff. So all of these cross members, or whatever you want to call them up here, they fit neatly out here. And the tarp or the cover itself is just folded down and it's stored right out here in the front. And of course, if you have the top off, you're probably going to want the back here completely open. So this thing just pops right off, and it has an extra set of holes to store that up here. That way you can keep all this stuff on the trailer itself so it doesn't get lost somewhere. And These chains, they were not here originally, but I suppose they're nice enough to have. The only thing is they make a bit of noise when they are flapping around and hitting the inside of this. Have some complete hubs and brakes. Let's see what we have in the mystery box. Ta-da! There's a whole bunch of stuff down here. A lot of it is just brand new stuff. New air couplings? It might need those. Brand new lights. Pretty cool. There's a lot of good stuff down here. I know exactly what these are for. They're painted yellow, so they fit these recovery points down here. Haha. Pretty cool. Man, we got all the good stuff with this trailer. Extra tool kit, a lot of other stuff. Oh, and by the way, the other box is just completely empty, so it's only this stuff. So. All right, here we go. This is now mounted exactly where it's supposed to be. I'm actually really happy it had that bracket down there. Now I will say most of these trailers that I've seen, they don't actually have the bracket mounted up here. Typically it's sitting right down here, not in use, because I just suppose most of them didn't really carry a spare wheel. But now that we do have one, it's really nice to have it mounted here in the right place. And it is a bit funny, there's a lot of things that are just bolted onto this trailer. If you do need to change the wheel, you're of course going to need some tools to do it. And it does have a tool set right down here. It's a bit dark. Here we go. They're a bit rusty looking, but there was a new set in that box in the back. Anyway, the tools are held in with these little brackets here. There's one in each end. They are also bolted in place. So there's no way to get the tools out unless you have a tool kit, so you can unbolt it and get to your tools. That's a bit funny. So one other thing it has that we can just quickly talk about, it does have a little support leg on the back here. That's just if you don't have this thing hooked up to a vehicle and you want to load something heavy in the back, you don't really want this whole thing to tip over backwards. So you have this little extra leg that you could put down for some extra support. But I think that is about it for the show and tell. So let's get the top back on here just because it looks kind of nice, and then let's take this whole thing for a drive. Easy, Vic. The one slight disadvantage to off-roading with a trailer like this is that it's just not very easy to reverse back out of something like this. We're actually filming this on my birthday, and for some strange reason, it's not the first time I've been stuck in a mud hole on my birthday. I know you all want to see this thing in action, so let's see if this can pull out the old Mog. You know, it's really nice that I have that nice big winch on there, but unfortunately I still haven't worked on that button to activate the PTO, so I still don't even know if it works. So we are going to be using a strap, but with heavy vehicles like this, you really don't want to be yanking on things because they just physically cannot move that fast. So we are going to take it nice and easy and just see if we can pull it up with a little bit of help. I don't think it's going to take that much. Famous last words. Well, clearly that didn't work too well. I wasn't really sure about it because it is a really steep pile of dirt we have to crawl up onto here. And the other wheel over here is buried down pretty deep as well, so it is a lot of force to put on it. I don't want to do that with this strap. We could probably do it if that winch on that thing was working, but we're just going to try something else, see if we can actually back it out by pulling on the trailer instead, because it does have those nice big recovery points on the back of it. Well, this is about the trailer after all, so let's go ahead and see if we can pull it out in one of these recovery points. It should work just fine. That is the whole point of those. Or maybe it's just a tie down, but it looks robust enough to be a recovery point. If we can just get it back a little bit, then maybe we can steer out the other way. Would you look at that? We do have four-wheel drive on this thing. I really wasn't sure about it, whether that even worked. I really don't think we need all that much this time. It's just a bit too slippery to get up this little hump right here. Alright people, that is going to be it for this one because we are running out of daylight here. But do let me know what you think of this set, because personally I think they go together really well. Thank you all for watching along, and I'll see you in the next one.